Hey everybody, it's Noah with the Center for Political Innovation here to bring you your daily dose of revolutionary hope and optimism. And today I wanted to talk about a mistake that I see a lot on the quote-unquote populist right, but I see it a lot from people who might consider themselves to be quote-unquote left-wing as well. Um, and that is this idea that the increased repression, people losing their rights, people, they see people like Assange being put in jail. They see the Uhuru 3 being prosecuted. They see the wars around the world, the increased violence that is seeping into the lives of ordinary people, people having their rights taken away, um, the increased rigidity of American politics, and they see the state, quote unquote, as this like ever-growing leviathan that is becoming so strong that essentially there's no hope, and that all we can do is simply complain into oblivion. And it's not only wrong, but the opposite is true. Um, and to help us understand sort of the science of this, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about Hegel's master-slave dialectic, and then I'm going to apply it to our current situation. So the master-slave dialectic is something that appears in Hegel, and it's meant to be sort of a metaphor for politics. He says that the conflict, right, the contradiction between a master and a slave is a battle for recognition. That two people, they come into contradiction with each other, and each of them wants to be recognized by the other as a being, that they want to be recognized as the master, and in doing so, by defeating the other, that they are recognized as the master, and then they reduce the other to a tool, to a slave. But this is contradictory, that this is a dialectical relationship, because the master, by making the slave subservient, by reducing it to a tool, and by repressing them when they attempt to break free, is, contradictorily recognizing their being, and this whole conflict stems from a battle to see whose being will be recognized. But the master, by reducing that person to a tool, by using them for their own gain, and by suppressing them, is in some sense recognizing that not only is that person a person, but that they are a being that could be a threat to them. Likewise, the slave's role is also dialectical. The slave, is meek and must be suppressed by the master, and the only way that they can break free, the only way they can prove their life, is by being willing to die, by risking that repression, by saying that enough is enough, that they are a person, and that they will be recognized as such, and they are not a tool, right? To prove their life, they must be willing to risk death. So both of these roles are dialectical, and both of them have aspects of them that on the surface level, if we were to look at them quote-unquote metaphysically in this linear way, we might not see, right? Because we see the master as this sort of domineering, dominant person who is, because they're so big and strong, able to force the slave to submit. But in reality, that's coming from a place of weakness. And this domineering attitude that they take is an implicit recognition that the slave is the person who has power in this situation, because the master is reliant on them to make a living, and the master has to put resources into repressing them because they recognize that what they're doing is wrong, and two, that this person is capable of more. And the same is true for our current situation. The ruling class, they put up a front about seeing, ordinary people as, backward, mindless people who they can essentially do whatever they want to. They make a game out of sending, our kids to go die in wars, and locking up anybody who disagrees with them. But this is an implicit recognition that we as working people have the power to change our fate, that we as working people are the ones that make the cogs of society turn. It's a recognition that we as working people have the power in this relationship. And how are we to break free? Well, we have to prove our life. We have to prove that and ascend to the role of, I guess, a master, but, become equals. And the process of doing that is by being willing to risk death. And in many cases, the sort of decrease in living conditions, though obviously it's very bad and we hate to see our brothers and sisters suffer, but increasingly it's taking away the option that ordinary people have to sort of just get by and live biologically and, say that, it's okay because, I still have access to my freedoms, I still have access, I'm still able to make a living. Well, when that option is not available to them, working people are far more willing to risk death, and therefore, they will be able to unleash their full potential. And that's what's so wonderful about these times that we're living in spite of how horrible some aspects are, is that pretty soon, the masses will risk their lives, they will prove their lives, and they'll be able to unleash their potential.